What if the most effective mosquito control system in the world was invented by people who don't use electricity, don't buy chemicals from big box stores, and have been living pest-free for over 200 years? And what if the method they use is completely safe for your dogs, your chickens, your honeybees, and your kids? You would want to know, right? Well, that is exactly what this video is about. And by the end of it, you are going to completely rethink the way you deal with mosquitoes on your property, forever. Let's get into it. Every single summer, it is the same story. You spend your evenings swatting. You spray yourself down with chemical repellents that smell like a chemistry lab and leave your skin feeling like plastic. You buy those plug-in zappers and citronella candles and those little clip-on fans that are supposed to create a protective zone. Maybe you even called a mosquito control company and paid someone to come spray your yard. And for a week, maybe two, it seemed like it was working. Then they came back. They always come back. Here's what nobody tells you about that spray service. The chemical they use is typically a pyrethroid. It does kill mosquitoes, yes, but it also kills fireflies. It kills dragonflies. It kills beneficial wasps. And most critically, it is devastating to honeybees. Studies have shown that pyrethroid exposure is one of the contributing factors to colony collapse in managed bee populations. So you are paying somebody to come to your property, poison your ecosystem, and still not solve the problem long term. That is not pest control. That's a subscription to a broken system. Now, here is the thing that really got me when I first started looking into this. The Amish have almost no mosquito problem. Communities spread across Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Indiana, people living on productive land, working outdoors from sunup to sundown, growing gardens, keeping bees, raising animals, and the mosquito pressure they deal with is a fraction of what most suburban and rural homesteaders experience. So what do they know that we have forgotten? It's not one thing, it's a system. And that's the part nobody talks about. Most people approach mosquito control like a battle. You see the enemy, you spray the enemy, you win. Until next week when you have to do it all over again. The Amish approach is completely different. It's not about killing mosquitoes so much as it is about making your land the wrong place for mosquitoes to exist. There's a massive difference between those two ideas. One is a treadmill, the other is a solution. This system has several layers to it. We're going to go through each one, and I promise you, none of this requires a chemistry degree, none of it requires expensive equipment, and every single piece of it is safe for your bees and your animals. The first layer is water management, and this is where most people miss the biggest opportunity of all. A mosquito needs standing water to breed. That's non-negotiable. No standing water, no breeding cycle. Female mosquitoes lay their eggs in still, shallow water. Even a bottle cap full of water is enough for a batch of eggs. And here's the part that should shock you. A single female mosquito can lay up to 300 eggs at a time. Those eggs can hatch in as little as 48 hours under warm conditions. So if you have standing water anywhere on your property right now, you are not dealing with a mosquito problem. You are manufacturing one. The Amish understand this at a landscape level. Traditional Amish farm design, which goes back generations, naturally incorporates what modern permaculture calls water harvesting with flow. Rainwater is channeled and directed, not left to pool. Low spots in pastures are filled or drained to eliminate stagnation. Livestock water troughs are refreshed regularly, sometimes daily. Gutters are cleaned routinely so water moves through instead of sitting. Here is where most people get it wrong. They look at their property for the obvious stuff, the old tire, the kiddie pool, the bird bath, but they miss the hidden culprits, the tarp folded in the corner of the garden, the wheelbarrow left upside down but with a dip in it, the roof of the chicken coop with a small sag where water collects, the tray underneath a potted plant, a clogged gutter 6 feet above your head that you forgot about 2 years ago. Do a full audit of your property every spring. Get aggressive about it. Every single place water can pool and sit still is a mosquito nursery. Now, for water you cannot eliminate, a pond, a rain barrel, a large low spot, there are biological solutions that are completely safe for your bees and pets, but we'll get to that in a moment. The second layer of the Amish system is habitat design, and this one changed how I think about my whole property. Mosquitoes are not strong flyers. They get pushed around by wind easily. They're also sensitive to heat. During the hottest parts of the day, they shelter in cool, damp, shaded areas, tall grass, dense brush, piles of leaves, stacked wood that is not properly aired out. These are what are called mosquito harborage zones. This is where they hide. This is where they rest. This is where they spend most of their time when they're not actively feeding. Traditional Amish land management keeps these harborage zones to an absolute minimum. Grass around the homestead is kept short. Wood is stacked off the ground on elevated rails to allow airflow underneath. Brush piles are kept away from the main living and working areas and managed regularly. Dense shrubs are pruned to allow light and air movement through them. The garden perimeter is kept clean and open. This is not about being a neat freak. It's about removing the daytime hiding spots that allow mosquito populations to build up on your land. If they have nowhere to shelter, they can't establish a population. They move on. And here's something interesting that most people overlook. Natural airflow is your friend. Mosquitoes avoid areas with consistent breeze. If you're designing a new outdoor space, a patio, a sitting area, a garden seating area, think about orientation relative to your prevailing winds. Even a gentle, consistent breeze of just 1 to 2 miles per hour is enough to make a zone deeply uncomfortable for mosquitoes. This is why porches with good cross ventilation, a feature common in traditional farmstead design, tend to be far more comfortable in summer than still enclosed spaces. Now, the third layer is one of my absolute favorites, and it's where things start to feel almost magical. It's biological control, and the Amish figured this out long before the word integrated pest control ever existed. Here's the hidden solution most people completely overlook. Nature already has a pest control system built in. You just have to invite it onto your property. Let's start with bats. A single little brown bat, the most common bat species in North America, can consume somewhere between 600 and 1,000 mosquitoes in a single hour of feeding. One bat, 1 hour. And bats are active at dusk and dawn, which is exactly when mosquito pressure is highest. Traditional Amish farms almost always have bat activity nearby, often encouraged by the presence of old barns with gaps and lofts that serve as natural roosts. On a modern homestead, a simple bat house mounted on a pole or on the south-facing side of a structure could attract a colony. Give it one full season to be discovered, and you could have dozens of bats working your property every single night for free. Then there are dragonflies. This is another one that completely changes the game when you understand it. A single dragonfly can eat hundreds of mosquitoes per day. They're extraordinary hunters, one of the most effective predators in the insect world, with a catch rate of around 90% when they target prey. If you have a pond or water feature and you want it without mosquitoes, don't reach for chemical treatments first. Create dragonfly habitat. Dragonflies need aquatic vegetation to lay their eggs and for their nymphs to develop. Native pond plants like cattails, pickerelweed, and water iris give them what they need. You invite the dragonflies eat the mosquito larvae and the adult mosquitoes both. It's elegant, and it's completely safe for your bees. Speaking of bees, here's something that will make you feel better about your pollinators. Honeybees do not eat mosquitoes. They're not in direct competition for food. When you build a healthy insect ecosystem that supports predatory insects, you are not threatening your bees. You're building a thriving, diverse system that supports everything.
Now, what about birds? Purple martins are famous for being sold as mosquito controllers, and the truth is a little more nuanced. They do eat insects in flight, but their diet tends to be larger flying insects. The real birds you want are swallows, barn swallows, tree swallows, which are extremely common around working farms and will absolutely consume mosquitoes as part of their diet. Nest boxes for swallows are simple to build and maintain, and a pair with young to feed will be hunting insects all day long. The fourth layer is plant-based repellency, and this is where traditional Amish herbal knowledge really shines. There are plants that mosquitoes genuinely avoid, not at the level of myth, at the level of real documented chemistry. The essential oils in these plants interfere with the mosquito's ability to detect carbon dioxide and lactic acid, which is how they find you. You are essentially jamming their signal. The heavy hitters are plants like lemon balm, which releases its oil when brushed against and can be grown prolifically as a ground cover or border plant. Lavender, which has the added benefit of attracting bees while repelling mosquitoes. It is one of the few plants that does both at once. Catnip, which research from Iowa State University found to contain a compound called nepentolactone that is actually more effective at repelling mosquitoes than DEET in lab conditions. Horse mint, also called bee balm, which is native to much of North America and has been used for centuries. Basil, which works particularly well near water features. Planting it near the edges of a rain barrel or pond helps deter mosquitoes from landing near the water surface to lay eggs. The traditional Amish tradition of growing herbs in dense, practical plantings around the homestead is not just for medicine and cooking. It creates a living aromatic perimeter that makes the property less inviting to biting insects across the board. Here is where most people get this wrong, though. They buy one lavender plant in a little pot and set it on the porch and wonder why it is not working. One plant is decoration. What you need is mass planting, enough aromatic coverage that the volatile oils are actually diffusing into the air around your sitting areas and garden beds. Think in clusters and borders, not individual specimens. The fifth layer is water treatment, and this is the one that makes standing water non-negotiable to eliminate, completely unnecessary. Sometimes you cannot drain a water source. A pond is a pond. A rain collection barrel is functional. An ornamental water feature is part of your landscape design. For these situations, the Amish and traditional homesteaders have used a biological agent called BTI, or Bacillus thuringiensis israelensis, long before it had that name. It's a naturally occurring soil bacterium that is lethal to mosquito larvae, but completely harmless to everything else: fish, bees, birds, dogs, humans. It occurs in nature. You're not introducing something foreign. You are concentrating something that already exists. It comes in a product form called mosquito dunks, small donut-shaped rings you drop in standing water. One dunk treats about 100 square feet of water surface for up to 30 days. They cost roughly $1 each. A small pond might need 2 or 3 per treatment cycle. It's one of the most cost-effective and ecologically responsible interventions you can make, and it's safe. Completely, provably, undeniably safe. Traditional Amish communities have adopted BTI dunks in many regions, particularly where livestock water management creates unavoidable standing water. It fits naturally into their philosophy: effective, non-toxic, close to nature. The sixth layer is timing and behavior, and this one costs you nothing but awareness. Mosquitoes are most active at 2 specific windows: the hour around dawn and the 2 to 3 hours after dusk. During the middle of a sunny, warm day, they're largely inactive, sheltering in those cool harborage zones we talked about. If you're doing serious outdoor work, harvesting, fence repair, tending animals, and you can shift that work to the middle of the day even partially, you're already drastically reducing your exposure without killing a single mosquito. Traditional farm schedules, including the early morning and late evening rhythms common in Amish communities, align naturally with this. Morning chores at first light tend to finish before the full mosquito activity peak. Evening barn work wraps up before full darkness. This is not always possible on a modern schedule, and I'm not saying restructure your life, but when you have a choice between doing something at 6 in the evening versus 8, that awareness matters. Clothing choice also matters more than most people realize. Loose, light-colored, long-sleeved cotton clothing makes you dramatically less available to mosquitoes. Light colors are less attractive than dark ones. Mosquitoes use visual contrast to locate targets in addition to heat and CO2. Loose fabric is harder to bite through than tight fabric. Traditional modest Amish dress, which covers the arms and legs, is incidentally excellent mosquito protection, not by design for that reason, but as a natural consequence of the style. The seventh and final layer is what I think of as the feedback loop, and it's what ties all of this together. Every one of these layers supports the others. Short grass and managed brush reduce harborage zones, which reduces the population available to breed. Eliminated standing water drastically reduces breeding success. Bat houses and swallow boxes mean your biological predators are active every night, hitting the population from both the adult and larval stages. Dense aromatic plantings create a perimeter around the spaces you use most often. BTI treatment handles any water you can't eliminate, and your personal timing and clothing habits reduce the mosquito-to-human contact that happens in the windows that remain. Together, these layers create a property where mosquito populations simply cannot build to the point where they become a serious problem. You're not in a war, you're in control of your environment. That's a completely different feeling. I want to give you a realistic sense of what this looks like in practice. A homesteader who implements all of these layers, especially the water management, the bat houses, and the plant perimeter, typically sees a dramatic reduction in mosquito pressure within one full season. Not overnight, not in a week, one season, because you're changing the ecological conditions of your property, and ecology takes a season to respond. But the results are lasting. You're not buying another round of spray. You're not renewing a service contract. You're done. The chemical spray service costs, on average, somewhere between $300 and $700 per season for a typical suburban yard, and you have to renew it every year forever, or the mosquitoes come back immediately. What we just went through cost you some bat houses, some native plants, a bag of mosquito dunks, and a season of deliberate attention to your water and your land. After that first investment, which is a fraction of what the spray service costs, your system maintains itself largely on its own. The bats come back every year, the plants come back every year, the dragonflies return to a healthy pond. You have built something instead of renting a solution. That's the Amish way. Not a product, not a subscription, a system rooted in observation, patience, and a deep understanding of how nature actually works. And here's what I want you to think about before you close this video. 200 years ago, people had no DEET, no pyrethroids, no plug-in zappers. They lived and worked outside, full days, full seasons, on the same land, around the same animals, under the same skies. They weren't being eaten alive. They managed. They managed because they understood their environment deeply enough to work with it instead of against it. We got sold the idea that chemistry was the only solution, that the right combination of products would solve our problems if we kept buying them. And a lot of us have spent years and real money on that idea without ever fully solving the problem. You don't have to do that anymore. If you found this video useful, share it with somebody who spends every summer fighting mosquitoes the hard way. And if you're already doing any of these things on your homestead, the bat houses, the plantings, the water management, drop a comment below and tell me what's worked best for you. I read every one of those comments and I genuinely learn from them. And if you're new here and this is the kind of content you've been looking for, practical, chemical-free, rooted in real tradition, then subscribe, because this is what we do here every single week. Go build something that lasts.